So this was a study from 2018, and I've provided the link below. These are the highlights of it. So the study was types of intelligence predict the likelihood to get married and stay married. And we discussed this briefly in the previous session, but we're going to go slightly more into detail in this one. It was a large-scale empirical study that supported the evolutionary theory. So they studied the intelligence scores of males as predictors of marriage. They found that intelligence predicts likelihood to get married and the likelihood to stay married. Where this study differed from our original study about IQ and marriage is that they tested for different types of intelligence, namely verbal intelligence, so language, numeric intelligence, so mathematical abilities and ability to work with numbers, and spatial logic intelligence. So, that is more practical sort of intelligence related to spatial logic and reasoning. And as we saw in the previous lesson, the results suggested that regardless of the type of intelligence, they found that the results may suggest intelligence is an evolutionary fitness indicator in mating, so that intelligence is a signal to potential partners or potential mates and marital partners that they are more evolutionary fit, they possess better genes, and they are in good health. And therefore, they are more likely to get married and potentially more likely to stay married. So let's have a look at more detail from this study. So they found large-scale evidence for the role of intelligence in marriage and divorce behaviour. So already we're finding some key differences between this study and our original study in the question of the essay. They didn't just look at marital status in terms of whether an individual was married or not, but they looked at divorce behaviour and also marital satisfaction. And they controlled for resources like income, and they were controlled for social status. It was a large sample size of 120,000 males. However, obviously one of the weaknesses being they didn't test any females in this study. And they also measured, how long a marriage would go on for. So they didn't just predict, whether someone would get married or someone wouldn't get married, but they predicted whether it was a continuous marriage that did not end in a divorce. And they measured this in a separate sample, also a very big sample of 68,000 individuals. When they looked at different types of intelligence, they found that the type of intelligence didn't really make a difference to marriage, or whether a marriage was successful or whether someone was likely to end up in a divorce. So they found specifically the likelihood of a man staying married was basically predicted to an equal extent by verbal, logical, and numeric intelligence. So essentially, no matter the type of intelligence, it didn't really matter. And it was just about having a higher IQ in general. It didn't matter whether, you were better off on the verbal side or maybe the numeric side. So the researchers argue that these findings provide empirical evidence for evolutionary psychology's notion that human intelligence is an intangible fitness indicator that directly influences mating prospects, rather than merely exerting its influence through tangible resources of income and social status. So they're basically separating out the fact that IQ could either be a signal for, someone having a higher income and social status, because if you think about it, someone with a higher IQ is more likely to do better in school and attain well educationally. They're more likely to do better in their job and then end up with a higher income and potentially social status. That's one side of the argument. The other side of the argument is that IQ is actually an intangible fitness indicator, and this is from the evolutionary side of psychology, which directly influences mating prospects by signaling to a potential mate that they carry good genes which are good for mating and survival.